don't want to, if people still want to believe that just because I have microdeletion, and I had that diagnosed in 2012, if people
11,
want to,
girl. 2011, girl.
no, okay, whatever,
You
whatever, around
see?
that time.
Oh my. Can you imagine having to be corrected by Bree because you don't even know when you were diagnosed with that deletion? Hey everyone, Carolina Girl here. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving spending time with family and friends. Now it's that time of year where it kicks off the holiday shopping season, so please be careful out and about and always be aware of your surroundings. When you're crossing the parking lot looking for your car, once you get your car in sight, kind of scan around it, scan underneath it, make sure nobody's lurking around, wait for you to get in your vehicle. If you go out at night, please try to get parked in a well-lit area, and please do not go out by yourself at night. It's just not good practice. With that being said, that's my public service announcement for this holiday season. Let's get down to business on why I'm coming to you tonight. I want to talk to you about Gypsy's microdeletion. If you're familiar with this case, then you know she accused her mom of medical abuse and physical abuse. Gypsy's PR person, Bree, went live a couple weeks ago to debunk Becca's scoops and failed miserably at it. Bree wants to convince everyone that the only symptoms Gypsy has of the deletion are strabismus and microcephaly, and that just simply isn't true. She states that the only thing that really affects Gypsy from the deletion is strabismus, and that's not true. Before I go any further, I want to preface this by stating I am not a medical provider. I do not hold any medical degrees. I've never worked in the medical field. I do have a legal background, but I'm not medical. I'm not making this video out of hate, and I'm not doing it for clout. Bree states that all anti-Gypsy creators are in this for the wrong reasons, that we're just looking for clout, money, and to hate on Gypsy. 1, I could care less about clout. 2, I have no intentions of monetizing this channel. And 3, speaking facts on Gypsy isn't hating on Gypsy. I'm making these videos to help put the truth out there to the people and for Gypsy to stop dehumanizing her mom. I'm trying to be a voice for Dee Dee because hers was taken. All aboard the truth train. Gypsy calls herself Operation Cockroach. I call myself Operation Raid. Now, with all that said, let's get down to business. If you're familiar with this case, then you know Gypsy was diagnosed with 1q21.1 microdeletion in 2011. Listening to her on Bree's Live, she sounds like she could care less. Strangers on the internet seem to know more about 1q21.1 than Gypsy or Bree do. I never heard of it before Gypsy's case, and now I know more about it than I care to. I want to start off by reading an excerpt of Gypsy's book regarding the chromosome deletion and her saying she's unscathed by it. This comes from chapter 12, page 83 of her book. It states, another way she justified my illnesses was by claiming I had a disease-inducing chromosomal defect. Interestingly, I found a chromosome test in one of my boxes of medical files. It was ordered in 2012 when I was already 20 years old after a doctor could not find anything wrong with me that would explain the cornucopia of illnesses my mother claimed I had. His last-ditch effort was to consider if my ailments were due to a rare chromosomal defect. To my surprise, the results of this test indicate that I actually do have what's known as a microdeletion, 1q21.1, which is a chromosomal change in which a small piece of chromosome 1 is deleted in each cell. This was news to me. Flustered, I turned to the internet to sleuth around about what this actually means. What I discovered is staggering. This microdeletion is known to increase the risk of delayed development, intellectual disability, physical abnormalities, and neurological and psychiatric problems. Wow, what a coincidence. Every illness my mother claimed I had fallen beneath all these umbrellas, except I didn't actually have a single one of them. Now, this is a letter that was sent to Gypsy's pediatrician at the time in Missouri, Dr. Robert Steele, back in May of 2013. It was from a pediatric neurologist named Dr. J.B. Le Pajan. Dr. Le Pujan had been seeing and treating Gypsy for seizures, but apparently was the one that diagnosed her with 1q21.1 back in December 2011. Now remember that because he says he last saw her here in 2011, and he's talking to Dr. Still here about the 2.74 megabase interstitial deletion of chromosome 1q21.1. So doing research, I looked up to see what this was, what this meant, what the 1q21.1 was all about. 1q21.1 microdeletion syndrome is a chromosome abnormality where a segment of genetic material on the long arm or Q arm of chromosome 1 at position 21.1 is missing or deleted. Some people with this deletion have no observable features, while others have variable findings that can include a small head, microcephaly, developmental delay, speech and motor delays, mild intellectual disability, distinctive facial features, and eye abnormalities. Other findings can include seizures as well as abnormalities of the heart, skeleton, and urinary system. Psychiatric and behavioral features can include autism spectrum disorders, anxiety and mood disorders, schizophrenia, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, and sleep disorders. This syndrome is caused by a deletion in let me see if I can't see what that says because my thing is in the way. It says blank in a blank region of 1q21.1, which is distinct from the deletion region that causes TAR syndrome. So I want to play a clip of this is Gypsy on Breeze Live a couple weeks ago saying that all Dee Dee had to do was take her to a genetic specialist.
Was me to go see a genetic specialist because the genetic specialist that I had seen like a couple months ago was able to even pinpoint down to the molecular count of where I'm affected and know what affects me, like from this 2 point whatever to this 9 point whatever. I'm just throwing out numbers right now because I don't have the forms in front of me or the documents in front of me, but the genetic specialist is so trained to understand the human body in the way that they can read this point system and know exactly what affects what, such as microcephaly, a smaller head. I'm affected by that. A lazy eye. I'm affected by that. But when it comes to mental slowness, however people say it these days, I'm not affected by it. And all it would have taken was a genetic specialist to look at those results
Or
and see,
Uh-huh.
okay, you're not affected by this.
Yeah, Gypsy, we know what you're affected by, and see, so did your mom, and that's why she was having you treated for certain issues. They were symptoms of your chromosome deletion, but at the time it was unknown. They knew you had a chromosome deletion, but they didn't have a name for it, and they didn't know the different ailments that were tied into it back then. There are a lot of young people that may not be aware of how things used to be. Things haven't always been the way they are today with testing and genetic testing, medical technology and just technology in general. I mean, things weren't always like this. Back in the day, it was really different, and that's why I'm kind of upset here because nobody stepped up and said, Gypsy, well, things weren't always the way they are today. Back then, she was born in 1991, and trust me, it wasn't like this in 1991. The technology and all that. I mean, we didn't have Google and Wi-Fi and all that good stuff back in 1991. And so nobody stepped up and said, hey, things aren't always, they weren't always like this. And so it probably wasn't available back then. Nobody said that, but they just let her keep on going on and on. And so Or maybe they're not aware, but I know there's some people on this panel that's my age or older, and so they should know that medical technology hasn't always been like it is today, and what's available today surely wasn't available to us back in the day. Uh, so anyway, but it kind of gets on my nerves because you don't just sit there, and correct her because she's wrong, and that's just the way I see it. The 1q21.1 was discovered or identified in 2008. Gypsy's real age would have been 17 at that time. So the 1q21.1 deletion syndrome was first identified in 2008. This syndrome is a rare chromosomal disorder that affects brain development and can lead to various developmental and neurological issues. So she was 17 years old when they finally figured out that, this was the 1q21.1 deletion syndrome. So they didn't start testing for it, though, for 3 years. The testing for 1q2.1 deletion syndrome began in 2011. This syndrome is a rare chromosomal abnormality where a segment of genetic material on chromosome 1 is missing. This discovery of this syndrome in 2008 led to the development of specialized genetic testing methods to confirm the presence of the deletion. And so Gypsy was tested and diagnosed in December 2011. And she would have been 20 years old at this time. And so, like I said, there was 3 years in between the testing. And so, Gypsy, not only did your mom have you tested when she could have you tested for this disorder, you were one of the first one diagnosed and documented with it. How about that, girlfriend? You were like the first, one of the first. The first case was actually found in 2008, and the test wasn't available to the public until 2011, and so you were like one of the first ones diagnosed and documented with it. And it's interesting because both of these screenshots show that it's rare, okay? And it's kind of funny because Bree, for some reason, she gets triggered about this word rare. And it's no big deal. It's just basically just saying that, this disease is really rare. It doesn't mean, Gypsy's going to die or anything, but that's the way Bree makes it sound like when you say rare. But the 1q21.1 deletion syndrome is considered rare, with only a few dozen individuals reported in medical literature. Approximately 0.015% of the population may have this deletion, which can lead to various developmental and health issues, including intellectual disability and physical abnormalities. While some individuals may not exhibit noticeable features, others may experience significant developmental delays and other symptoms. As of 2024, I believe it was, there was only 102 people diagnosed and documented with this deletion. And Gypsy is one of these people. As of 2024, at least 102 people with 1q21.1 deletion syndrome have been identified in medical research. The first case was found in 2008. There are likely many more undiagnosed people who have the syndrome. But imagine that. They started testing, or it was first identified in 2008, and they started testing for it in 2011. But it's been 16 years since the first person was diagnosed with 1q21.1, and only 102 people have been diagnosed with it since they started testing Gypsy in 2011. Because as Gypsy said, this is Gypsy's words now, all it would have taken was Dee Dee to take her to a genetic specialist, and this would have just been settled a long time ago. And that would have been, that's true. But unfortunately, The testing didn't exist until 2011, and guess what? You were tested in 2011. It's also documented that anyone with 1q21.1 has a 50% chance of passing the deletion to their child. So for a person who has 1q21.1 deletion syndrome, the risk of having a child who has the syndrome is about 50%. Gypsy made this post about her child when she was about 4 months old. Great news about Aurora. We're overjoyed to share that our sweet girl, Aurora, has tested negative for the rare genetic condition known as microdeletion 1q21.1. This result brings us such immense relief and gratitude. Thank you to everyone who's kept us in your thoughts. Your support has meant the world. Aurora is happy, healthy, and growing beautifully at 4 months old. We're looking forward to cherishing every moment with her. With lighter hearts and hopeful spirits, Gypsy, Rose, and Ken. Now, I think it's great that her child, if she truly doesn't have this deletion, then I think it's great. I wish no ill will on that baby whatsoever. So here, this shows that most people with 1q21.1 show signs and symptoms at newborn or infant stages, but the age symptoms may appear differ between the diseases. So it's possible that later on down the road, one of these symptoms could be an issue. It says symptoms of the disease may start to appear as newborn and as early as infant. The age symptoms may begin to appear differs between diseases. Symptoms may begin in a single age range or during several age ranges. The symptoms of some diseases may begin at any age. Knowing when symptoms may have appeared can help medical providers find the correct diagnosis. And so there are actually 47 symptoms related to 1q21.1 deletion. The types of symptoms experienced and their intensity may vary among people with this disease. Your experience may be different from others. Consult your healthcare team for more information. The following describes the symptoms associated with the disease along with the corresponding body symptoms, descriptions, synonyms, and frequency. Note, not all possible symptoms may be listed. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the symptoms, but I am going to display them so that way you can see what they are. And I'll try to leave each panel up for a little bit of time, but as you see, it states what it is, and then it also shows, how common it is for it to appear. And so you have a lot of occasional, and then you have some frequents. Like I said, you have 47 symptoms, but just because you have the 1q21.1 doesn't mean everybody's going to have all these symptoms. You might not have all of them. You could have most of them. You could have all of them. You could have half of them. You could have some of them. You could have a few of them. But it just depends. And I'm going to be honest with you, uh, looking through these, a lot of them, Gypsy, I don't think she has a lot of them. Now, is it possible, like down the road, could she possibly have some issues? I mean, it's possible. It is possible. So I was kind of shocked when I found out there was 47 symptoms. And it's an actual, a wide, range of symptoms. I mean, it's from the head to the toes, basically. And I mean, you can just see by the different symptoms. I mean, there's just like a wide variety of symptoms that's related to this, chromosome deletion. Now, what I'm putting up on the screen, this is a list of Dee Dee's, a list of Gypsy's diagnosis. This is Dee Dee's, and it was in Gypsy's medical records. Now, the top three are symptoms of 1q21.1, epilepsy, vision impaired, and hearing impaired. Those three are symptoms, and I'm just going to go ahead and point out the mild mental retardation, age 7. That would be a symptom as well, but I don't believe that about Gypsy. And the incontinence, that would be a symptom as well. And so I'm not quite sure what to believe there. I mean, we know she was wearing diapers, but I mean, I'm not quite sure what to believe there, but it is a symptom. Okay. So going back up to the epilepsy, can I say for certain Gypsy had seizures? No, I can't say for certain, but there is evidence in her medical records that indicate that, you know, she had an EEG done on September 6, 2007, and it was abnormal. This means that her brain did show possible seizure activity. You can go to Becca Scoop's channel because she discusses this. I'll put a link to the video in the description box. What is an EEG? It is a test that measures electrical activity in the brain. It uses small metal discs called electrodes attached to the scalp to record brain waves, which appear as wavy lines on the EEG recording. This test is commonly used to diagnose conditions such as epilepsy and other brain disorders. It is a non-invasive procedure that can be performed while a patient is awake or asleep. And here's little Miss Old Gypsy, and she's just all smiles. She said, "Hi, cheese." She's hooked up to the EEG machine. So I have a clip. Oh, so, yeah, let me play this. I have a clip. This is when she was arrested in Wisconsin. She's waiting for Detective Hancock to get here to interrogate her.
They should be coming back to talk about food soon. Then you can ask them your questions.
Then I had to go to the hospital and get some of my medicine because I have a seizure disorder.
Okay.
That's what kind of knocked me out.
Busy day, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird though. People seeing you in handcuffs, they give you this weird look, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. I'm like, okay, number one, I didn't kill nobody. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I didn't do nothing. I'm a good girl.
I think it's interesting that the first thing she says is she didn't kill anybody. It's usually, I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't do drugs. But anyway, she tells this guy she has a seizure disorder. Dee Dee's dead. She knows Dee Dee's dead at this point. The gig is up, but she's still claiming here she has a seizure disorder. Now, she would know, I would think, if she did or didn't. I mean, she's 23 here. She knows she's 23 here. She's pretending to be 19. But I would think she would know if she had seizures or not at this point. It's because she's not stupid. And she wants everybody to think she is, but she's not stupid.
Steele, and I became Gypsy's pediatrician back in 2005. She was 14 at the time. I've only had a little opportunity to kind of run through them, but when I looked in her earlier medical records, Gypsy had strabismus as an infant, which is when one eye or both wander. And over time, you go blind. So you have to have surgery to correct the problem.
So that was Dr. Robert Steele. That was Gypsy's pediatrician in Missouri. And he is explaining that she did have strabismus and she had to have 3 eye surgeries relating to the strabismus or she would have gone blind. They were trying to correct her eyes. And honestly, I still don't think they're corrected, but that's just my opinion. Now, regarding the hearing impairment that was on the list, let me put this back up. Regarding the hearing impairment, there is a symptom having to do with hearing impairment for 1q21.1. If Gypsy has hearing issues, I can't say if she does or doesn't, but I'm just saying if she does, it could be related to her deletion. And she did have a feeding tube. And this is all I could find, in her medical records about the feeding tube. I know Becca Scoops over there on her channel. She's gone more into detail about it. So I am going to link, I think I have the video for that, and I'm going to link that in the description box as well. And so let's go back to this. And so the next 2 things go hand in hand. You see quadriplegia and muscular dystrophy. Well, we all know that Gypsy's not quadriplegic. I don't know why Dee Dee's got quadriplegia written down, but technically Gypsy would have been paraplegic, and we know that she wasn't paraplegic either. But for this points, here she was paraplegic, and then you got muscular dystrophy. So these 2 go hand in hand. And this is what made Dee Dee look crazy here was the muscular dystrophy. And it kind of makes me mad because she looked crazy to these doctors because she was insisting that there was something wrong with the Gypsy. She couldn't walk. She had to have muscular dystrophy. All the tests were coming back normal, and she was still hell-bent determined something was wrong and that Gypsy had muscular dystrophy. And she was telling anybody that would listen that this girl had muscular dystrophy. And I meant to tell you that these 2 are not symptoms of 1q21.1. They are symptoms of gypsylyria. That's all one word, gypsylyria. Say it real fast. Gypsy was lying about not being able to walk to Dee Dee. And I'm just going to keep on stressing this because she was confiding to Nick here. People say, if you think Gypsy's a liar, why do you believe her here? Because here she was confiding to Nick. She was confiding to Nick in a private video chat message, whatever you want to call it. She's not talking to the people. She's not talking to the public. She's not trying to convince the world that she's this good girl that was just being abused by her mom and she just had to take her mom out. She's not trying to convince everybody. She's just talking to Nick in this video. And she tells him, I'm going to read it. It says, Gypsy shows Nicholas how she can stand and walk. And this was in a video dated May 26, 2014. This is 1 year before the murder. And it's in a video to Nick from Gypsy. And this is actually in evidence in Greene County, Missouri, in the Sheriff's Department. And I'm hoping to have it in my possession by the first of the year. But she shows him she can stand and walk. She explains that when she was 6 years old, she went into the hospital and that during surgery, the doctor said she had a seizure. And it's funny because she tells the same story in her book. She says Dee Dee tells this story to everybody. And the only difference with Gypsy's story is the fact that Gypsy tells Nick, I didn't tell my mom I got the feeling back in my legs. So let's say she explains that when she was 6, she went into the hospital and that during surgery, the doctor said she had a seizure and she was paralyzed. They didn't know if it was only temporary. She started getting feeling and tingling in her legs. She was young and kept it to herself. She kept it from her mom because she was afraid that her mom would stop loving her, which I'm going to get to this in another video. So she kept it to herself until 2011 when she rebelled and she ran away from home, when she ran away to be with Dan. That's what she's talking about here. She said explaining to their friends that she could walk would be too hard. She says she would like for people to know the truth, but she would just lose a lot of friends. And so here, this girl knew she could walk. She kept telling her mom she couldn't. And then she had this doctor thinking, that her mom had Munchausen's by proxy. This is the doctor that, suspected something and that put it in the medical notes.
Discrepancy was that for a person that has not walked for 9 years, for years, she should have technically almost no muscles in her lower extremities. But she didn't have muscles. It looked quite normal. And she was able to support her body weight. I remember her standing. So I had a big doubt.
And I'm going to rewind us back just a little bit because I want you to see right here, you see where it's highlighted, where it says her brain MRI and spinal MRIs were essentially normal. If you go down to the next paragraph where it says analyzing all the facts and after talking to her previous pediatrician, there's a strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy. So this is the gentleman that actually puts that in his notes because of the fact that Gypsy shouldn't have had any muscle tone in her legs if she wasn't using her legs, if she wasn't walking, she shouldn't have had muscle tone in her legs. And so just like he said, if she wouldn't have been walking for 9 years, then she shouldn't have had muscle tone, but she had pretty much normal muscle tone. And then he asked her to stand and she did, and she was able to support her body weight. And so he knew something was up, but he couldn't prove it. And so he just put it in his notes. And so here, he's got, he's accusing Dee Dee of Munchausen by proxy, and all along it's gypsilyuria. Gypsilyuria was just, happening and making Dee Dee look like she was crazy. But this is why Dee Dee thought that Gypsy had muscular dystrophy all these years. It's because Gypsy kept telling her mom she couldn't walk. Dee Dee found out Gypsy could walk when she ran away to be with Dan. These are Gypsy's words, and this is a legal document that I'm getting this from. That was the legal document that I was reading from, was from Nick's appeal. I think it was April 28, 2021. And like I said, I'm hoping to have that video in my possession by the first of the year. I do want to address the leukemia that Dee Dee had listed on that sheet. I don't know if Gypsy did or didn't have leukemia. I can tell you that Dr. Robert Steele tested Gypsy because Dee Dee stated Gypsy did have it, but she couldn't tell him what kind or how Gypsy was treated. He stated he tested her and everything came back normal, so he put in her records that she seemed to be in remission. And you see that Dee Dee has 1 year remission listed next to it. Regarding the asthma and the allergies and the heart murmur, these are all things that Gypsy could have outgrown. And as far as having a heart murmur, it says, heart murmurs are common in children. Up to 8.6% of infants and 80% of children have a heart murmur during the early years of life. These murmurs can range from innocent to pathologic, with the majority being benign and not requiring treatment. However, it is crucial to monitor and evaluate these murmurs to ensure that there are no underlying heart conditions that may need attention. So at this point, it seems like this is the perfect spot to stop and get ready for part 2. So as always, I want to thank you for watching and thank you for your support. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you'd like the content, please consider subscribing to my channel so you don't miss future videos. Also, please be sure to hit that like button to help get it out to the algorithms. Stay tuned for part 2.
You make me say